When someone's affected by cancer, of course, there are many things they have to deal with, but work is a very important one.
It's really, really lovely to have support, and it does get the best out of you.
Being able to talk to my work colleagues had a huge impact, I think, on my recovery.
Last year I noticed a lump on my breast, and I didn't think it would be cancer because I was only 30. And when I found out it was cancer, it was horrible. It was overwhelming, and to go to work the day after I was diagnosed and tell my boss was really, really hard. I couldn't even say the word cancer.
When an employee approaches either a line manager or an employer to let them know that they've been diagnosed with cancer, in those kind of circumstances it's important for managers and employers to remain sensitive to their needs and feelings.
It's really important to find a place where they're going to feel safe and not to be interrupted, because this is something which may bring up a lot of emotion in them as they start to tell the news. I imagine the first thing you might want to say is, how much time do you have to have off? And maybe some of those questions have to just kind of be held back for a little bit to give the person enough time to say, this is what I know. Ask very open questions which allow the opportunity to tell you what they need, and knowing that for everybody it's a different experience, and not making any kind of assumption that because it was this way for one person, it's going to be the same for someone else.
I rang my boss on the Friday morning and told him that I'd got the results of the colonoscopy and they had found something. He said he was sorry to hear that, and asked me if anyone else in the office asked about how I got on, whether he should tell them or not. I was quite pleased actually that he had, because it saved me having to tell everyone on Monday.
There needs to be a discussion to ensure that they're both very clear about what levels of confidentiality need to be maintained. Often in the early stages of cancer diagnosis, people aren't really very clear about what's going to happen and what the prognosis is, so they may want to keep the news to as few people as possible.
My colleagues found out a few weeks after I was diagnosed because I wanted a little bit of time first to come to grips with what was happening.
It's really important that the employer is led by the employee as to how the colleagues are told about their diagnosis. It could be that it's one-to-one with the person with cancer themselves. If they're not there, it means that questions like, what does this mean for my job? Am I going to have more work? Am I going to have to pick up all their work as well as my own? Can be dealt with in a sensitive sort of way.
If the person affected by the cancer diagnosis chooses to share the information with their colleagues and peer group and other managers in the organisation, that really can be extremely helpful throughout their cancer journey.
I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer 9 months ago, which required major surgery and also radiotherapy treatment after. Once I'd actually spoke to colleagues at Telefonica, I found that I got lots and lots of support and a lot of compassion as well. They helped me find things on the internet about my particular type of cancer, which I'd never heard of before. When I've been at home, they've called me to check I'm okay, and I just feel as though I'm cocooned by them.
The thing about cancer is that it comes with a lot of uncertainty, so things can change from day to day or week to week. One thing you might suggest is a regular meeting or phone call or email. Those kind of regular communications will make sure that everybody knows what is happening.
If I hadn't seen someone for a day or two, they would ring me at home and say, you know, just wondered how you were, just wanted to catch up. So there was a lot of emotional support, I would say.
It may be that the person affected by cancer would actually prefer to speak to a third party rather than their line manager or employer. It would be a good idea often to nominate someone else who can be a kind of go-between so that they don't actually have to face having a really difficult conversation in what are already very difficult circumstances for them. Hopefully the employee affected will return to work in a short space of time. In some cases it's clearly going to take a little longer, and it's important that good communication continues all the way through their absence from work. But in anticipation of their return to work, it's appropriate to ensure that a meeting takes place to work out how they would like that return to happen, whether they're going to be able to return to a full-time role immediately or whether they want some rehabilitation period.
Early this year, I had a phase back to work return. It was my boss that communicated with the rest of the team about how many hours I was working, so I didn't have to talk to them about it. I think that was the best way to handle it because then it took pressure off me.
My boss had me in the office and spoke to me about the cancer, gave me some sort of practical things I could do to keep myself going. It confirmed what I already knew, that he was a very caring boss.
It's really important that those lines of communication are kept open, and you'll be able to think about with the employee what's the best support that you can give both to the employee but also to the organisation.
The company I work for has been really supportive. On a corporate level, they've done everything that they can for me, but there's been a mixture of whether I can talk to colleagues about cancer. Some people would avoid me and look away, and one person in particular hasn't even spoken to me since I was diagnosed last year. It's quite upsetting because you want to talk to them about it. It's just really horrible to be avoided.
It may be that you're quite anxious about saying the right or wrong thing. So a simple question like, how are you? And then hearing whether you get a full answer or just, I'm fine. A full answer will give you an indication that maybe they're quite happy to have a chance to explain what's going on.
There's one or two that perhaps feel a little bit awkward, and that's understandable because they're not sure of how you're going to react as a person. But the majority are really, really open. You know, I get text messages off them when I've been going for my treatments, how are you? And just those few words make a real big difference.
Some of our patients, they were very caring and supportive. It made me feel good that they actually took the time to say, how are you feeling today? Because they were all people with their own problems, and the fact that they actually cared about mine was good.
On receiving a cancer diagnosis, for some people the most important thing they can do is just concentrate on that and be out of the workplace. For others, remaining in the workplace is so important. It gives them a sense of structure and a sense of normality. And the more their colleagues and managers rally around them, that can only add to their progress.
I think a lot of people think that I'm milking the whole cancer story. I do want to be working 100%, but I don't want to compromise my recovery. When people get frustrated with me, I want to let them know that I'm trying the best I can, but I need their help as well.
No one made me feel alienated. They all treated me basically as they'd always treated me. I'm sure it helped my recovery and got me through it.
I really feel that you do get the most out of somebody when they're happy in their role and they're supported by the people around them. I've never let how I feel come across to the customers ever. I've kept up with everybody else, and I've found if I've had a really bad day and I've been really depressed and down, I get so lifted when I walk through the door.
For information, help, or if you just want to chat, call the Macmillan support line on 0808 808 0000 or visit macmillan.org.uk.